The CNBC Africa team was back at the Gauteng legislature this week as Premier David Makhura tabled his political report. Hello and welcome to Eye on Gauteng. I am Fifi Peters. Now, earlier this week, Premier Makhura highlighted the progress the current administration has made in implementing government's 10-pillar program on radical transformation, modernization and re-industrialisation.
The Gauteng economy grew from 504 billion in 1995 to 952 billion in 2014, translating to a growth of 89%. Gauteng's contribution to the national GDP grew from 33% in 1995 to 35.1% in 2015. GDP per capita for Gauteng grew from 74,000 in 1996 to 81,221 in 2015, a growth of 10%. For Africans in Gauteng, per capita income grew from 9,981 rands in 1996 to 41,416 in 2015, representing a growth of 315%. Over the past 10 years, our provincial economy has consistently grown above the national average at 4.5%. During the second quarter of 2016, our provincial economy grew by 2.9%, up from 0.1% in the first quarter. In this period, Gauteng recorded the highest number of new jobs created in our national economy. That is 126,000 new jobs, compared to 93,000 in the Eastern Cape and 49,000 in the Western Cape. Gauteng unemployment rate declined by 0.4%. The key sectors that are driving recovery are manufacturing, which grew by 8.1%, finance, which grew at 3.3%, agriculture and agro-processing, and transport. These are the facts born out of the September quarterly labor force survey. Of course, we all know that this is not enough.
Makhura said that his administration will not stand for any misconduct.
In the 2017-18 financial year, the Executive Council will table a bill in this legislature to ensure that the open tender system becomes an act of the provincial legislature in our province. This we will do, honorable members, because we should bequeath this kind of openness and transparency in government to the future generations in our province. Never should it be possible for procurement processes to be flouted to favor friends or family, not under our watch. As part of our commitment to clean government, we have instituted disciplinary proceedings against 125 officials who were involved in financial misconduct, and this includes HODs. To date, 2 HODs have been dismissed for serious acts of misconduct. There's no place for officials who are prone to misdemeanors in the Gauteng provincial government, and this will not be tolerated, not under our watch. As part of strengthening the fight against corruption, the Executive Council has approved a strict regime of anti-corruption and integrity guidelines which will ensure that we have clean governance and clean administration at every level of government in our province. Amongst the measures we will put in place is the appointment of a civil society-led integrity promotion and anti-corruption advisory committee, which will be chaired by a retired judge. The role of the committee will be to vigorously enforce these guidelines and promote clean governance in our province. This committee will help us sustain the trajectory of clean governance and ethical leadership, which are foundations for good governance and good administration.
Having fulfilled his first 100 days in office, recently elected Executive Mayor of Johannesburg, Herman Mashaba, addressed the public earlier this month. The new mayor made headlines for his statements calling illegal immigrants criminals.
People of this city, in fact this country, have lost confidence and trust in government. And the reason why people have lost confidence and trust in government, it is because of government that keeps making promises but doing something completely different. Are we going to be that government? We're the government that is committing itself to be transparent, to be accountable. The government that its survival is going to depend on boldness. The inner city in particular, today hijacked by criminal elements. For me, first and foremost, being a South African, I'm not prepared to sit back and watch my own country being taken over by criminal elements. That's why I said in my speech that some so-called human rights lawyers making it difficult for the city to evict this illegal occupation of these buildings, hijacking the city that has to serve and be a city for our own people. The private sector is ready tomorrow. They just need access to the city so that they can build affordable housing for our people. Anyone who's in the city legally must be prepared to face us. They must know we're not going to be that government that tolerates criminality in our midst.
Gauteng Premier David Makhura expressed his thoughts on Mashaba's sentiment.
We have people in our country who left their country to live in other countries, not by choice, but because of conditions and circumstances that we had in this country. I will be more sensitive. I will be much more sensitive to how you deal with the issue of migrants. To criminalize them and illegalize them and not want to create the city of Johannesburg had a desk, what's called the migrant desk. We have learned from them. Had a migrant desk where they were dealing with these issues well, because governments are about dealing with issues well. First, understand the circumstances of the people you are dealing with. Don't shoot from the hip. If you just say all criminals, people who are here, all are here illegally are criminals and then they must leave. The first question is whether you will succeed to make them leave. Because leadership is about saying things that you can follow through, that you can do. So if you just say they must all leave my city, well, that you can say in the campaign. As I said in the report today, there are things people can say in the campaign, but when you govern, it's not the same. When you govern, you have to make decisions on things that you have laid your firm hand on and make sure you can implement those decisions. As I say, you've got to take time to understand the problem and the circumstances of people, because these are people.
The 1st of December is marked as World AIDS Day, where globally events and dialogues take place to create awareness and offer solutions for those affected with HIV/AIDS. CNBC Africa's Kama Nokwali filed this report.
Here in Gauteng, hundreds gathered in Ekurhuleni Sinaba Stadium to commemorate the occasion. Government and civil society representatives spent the day highlighting the effects of HIV and AIDS, educating people and showing support to those living with the pandemic. South Africa's Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, talks about antiretrovirals, reducing mother-to-child transmission and increasing life expectancy.
As we applaud our remarkable achievements in expanding antiretroviral treatment, the retroviral treatment that we are now giving to 3.7 million people, as we celebrate the dramatic reduction of mother-to-child transmission of HIV, as we welcome the marked increase in the average life expectancy of South Africans, we must be alarmed at the rate of new HIV infections because it still remains stubbornly high. We know that last year, about 266,000 South Africans became infected with HIV. That is a huge number. And each week, there are about 2,000 new infections amongst adolescent girls and young women who are aged between 15 and 24 years.
I spoke to some of the people attending the event about what World AIDS Day means to them.
For AIDS Day, to me, it means remembering our country and the disease which it faces. You know, just working together in unity to try and fight the invasion process and get as least people infected as possible. And those who are infected, to give them the health education which is appropriate so that they can survive and live, because I mean people can live with HIV and AIDS. I mean it's something that we have already conquered. So if we just stick to the right choices like using protection and taking our medication, then we can definitely win.
This day for me has been a blessing because it has taught me to be independent, to know my status. Today I can finally say that I'm HIV positive and I'm proud.
What I can simply say, this day means to me that there are people out there that need our help, and there are people out there abashonela bazali through HIV and AIDS. So we must help and support one another.
Okay, I'm so happy today because I learned a lot of things from different campaigns, and I'm also motivated. Also, we are part of Dreams Ambassadors. We talk about HIV and AIDS and other people who are involved in sexual active and other stuff.
In his speech, Ramaphosa pleaded to the people of South Africa to help fight the spread of HIV.
We need to act now to significantly reduce new HIV infections. If we do not do so, the progress we have made in the struggle against HIV will be eroded.
After the break, we let our hair down and look at the playful side of Gauteng. Gauteng residents are gearing up for the holidays, preparing hometown journeys and coastal retreats. But if you want to escape the holiday madness, crowds and traffic, Gauteng is the perfect place to be this December. All of the fun with a lot less fumes. Sounds like a cracker festive season to me.
Recently, Johannesburg has been voted as Africa's most visited city. So certainly you want to be at this most visited city in the festive season to see what is this buzz all about. We have fun fairs, places for kiddies, families. We account to the most visited province in terms of relatives, families and friends coming over. You know that majority of the people in the province don't necessarily were born here or have their roots here. So their relatives, their friends and families all over South Africa and all over the continent are visiting them. So the festive season becomes that place, that time where everybody is in a tranquil mood, in a spirit of giving. And the city region of Gauteng offers you countless offerings, including wildlife, entertainment, water sport, humanity in the cradle of humankind issues, world-class museums, but most importantly, breathtaking shopping for the festive season.
Now onto that breathtaking shopping, Gauteng boasts some of the best shopping malls on the continent that obviously attracts a lot of foot traffic. What measures will be put in place to ensure safety throughout these malls in the festive season?
We are leaving no stone unturned, working together with our partners, the law enforcement agencies, but also the business unity South Africa the malls owners themselves have put in extra measures to make sure that not only are we addressing safety and security measures, but we are also addressing other issues related to disaster management, evacuation, provision of enough water. As you know, the heat wave has also been a major factor here. So it's a holistic service that we are offering to the visitors to make sure that their shopping is a pleasurous shopping, but also they are living with an overwhelming experience that is what is on offer here in the Gauteng City region. Not only is issues of safety and security, but we are also working on with Home Affairs in relation to issues of visitor recourse, possibilities of losing passports and stuff like that. Our visitor safety and recourse unit is in full force working together with Home Affairs and the airport authorities to make sure that we are really providing a visitor services that is out of this world.
Now, obviously, the festive season is only a few weeks, but in terms of our regular tourists, what can they do in Gauteng throughout the year?
We are now, this year, been focusing as part of our domestic tourism drive on the locals with our township tourism experiences be on offer. So we have been seeing people flocking into our townships. We have been packaging our townships not just as a place of sleeping or places of going in there for a few hours, but places to be entertained. You're doing bicycle tours, you're doing water activities, you are visiting museums and staying also in the township as part of the program led by Premier Makhura on township economy revitalization. So this program continues this festive season. So the focus is on you, the residents and the people of Gauteng. We are focusing on pumping more information on what to do, where to go, and how to become a host. Like I've said, we account to the highest numbers of visiting relatives and friends. So we don't want you, when the relatives and the friends arrive here, you are a boring host. You don't know where to take them along. So we are pumping more information. We have also revamped our mobile app at Gauteng Tourism. We have a visitor travel guide app, which is available on Google Play and on iTunes, on iStores. We have also revamped our digital channels. You can follow us on social media to check what is happening. But we will also be in shopping malls, we'll be in highly densely populated areas with our mobile VIC distributing information on where to go, where the specials are, where to take the kids. So for example, the Joburg Red Hop on Hop Off bus have just launched a new route out of the CBD into Rosebank, into Sandton. We call it the Green Route. New places where kiddies can go and swim. New places have just opened opposite the old Lion Park in the Joburg North called Gok Lifestyle. Biggest swimming pool in probably in Gauteng, where kids can go and play. Very friendly for the kids, for the family. The Lion Park have just relocated next to this agricultural village. Is bigger and better. So definitely there is absolutely no reason to be a couch potato this festive season. You must go out and enjoy the festive summer in GP.
Well, quite a lot on offer there, but obviously Gauteng is the economic hub, and being the economic hub, it attracts a lot of business travelers. So what can business tourists expect from the province?
Indeed, in Gauteng we mean business, and we really mean business in the literal sense. While we are concentrating on the leisure offerings that I've been speaking about in terms of domestic tourism, but the anchor of what we do in this province is that we are the heartbeat of the continent. We mean business. We are hard at work now preparing for Meetings Africa, which will be kickstarting in the city region in the month of February in next year. That's basically where the entire African continent gather and map the way forward for the year in terms of business tourism. We are proud that this decision of key major players in the tourism space, the decision makers, the entrepreneurs, the thought leaders, have to come to Johannesburg, Gauteng City region to map out the year plan. That is why we are a place where decisions are made. So we are really consolidating on this business offering. When people visit the richest square mile in Africa, in Sandton, we are able to link them up to a township experience right here in Alex. So we are leveraging from our business tourism to promote our leisure offerings. When we are here in Sandton coming for shopping, we say not far away here there's Lily's Leaf Farm that house our historic stories about our liberation struggle. So we are interlinking the two. We just came back from one of the biggest travel trade expo in Barcelona, where once again we have reaffirmed Johannesburg and the city region of Gauteng standing as a leading MICE and business destination. We had fruitful engagements. The tour operators are starting to package Gauteng townships, are starting to package the cradle of humankind, they're starting to package the Gauteng Game Reserve, other than what we used to see being either Kruger or Cape Town, which is being brochered by international retailers and buyers of travel. That is shifting now, and it is because of our strong push and positioning ourselves as a business hub, as a must visit. We're also leveraging on some of the offerings around our business offerings, like when people are coming here for business, for meetings, for conferences. We are the headquarters of many of the international companies. So when they have their association meetings and conferences, we also put on the other side our beautiful golf offerings. So we encourage them to stay another day. They either come a day before their actual meetings or extend their offerings, their days with another day, so that they can go and play in our exquisite golf courses. And that's how we are positioning our destination.
South Africa's retail industry has been getting heavy international attention since 2010, with a large number of big names coming into the country's shopping centres. The country has the 6th largest number of malls in the world, with the United States, Canada, China, Japan, and the United Kingdom being the only countries that boast mall. Right here in Gauteng, the new Mall of Africa is the largest single-phase mall to be built on the continent. Aviwe Mtila tells us more.
A drawing board in Johannesburg. Donald McGilvery is one of the many architects who design these malls. He has been in the industry for 20 years and is a partner at MDS Architecture. This is a company that designed the Mall of Africa.
You can see by this little map, for example, there's the North African desert, and that would be one theme for one of the courts. The Great Lakes, for example, would be another theme for one of the courts. The tropical forest, which would be Central Africa, Southern Africa, which would be based around the mineral wealth, and then West Africa, which would be around the oil. And that was the main idea behind theming the Mall of Africa and actually creating this African identity that we wanted to create with a mall.
But when the Mall of Africa went from blueprint to bricks, there was a clutter all around. So what does he think about the chaos on the roads leading to the Mall of Africa in its opening? Chaos that left many questioning the lack of planning for mall infrastructure.
With regards to the Mall of Africa on opening day, it was obviously a very unusual situation, the fact that it attracted so much attention. I think also people tended to get into the Mall of Africa via the routes that they knew. So they would have taken the Allendale off-ramp, or they would have come in from the Kyalami side. I think Mall of Africa has been designed within the context of an overall master development for office buildings, for residential sectors within that whole area. And as such, there's quite a few different routes to get into the Mall of Africa.
The word from the drawing board is that from now on, it will be catch-up.
The developer who's doing a shopping centre or a mall or a development has to comply with certain infrastructure requirements. Where it sometimes falls short is that they have to comply to infrastructure and road upgrades, etc., within a certain distance of the mall. But then the roads around that, going into that new section that has to be developed, very often isn't upgraded either. So that's where, in my opinion, it tends to fall short a bit, and congestion tends to occur, is leading into those areas.
The Mall of Africa opened on the 28th of April with 300 shops. It is vast. With 131,000 square meters, the Mall of Africa is the biggest in the continent in terms of being complete in the first phase. Now the entrance behind me is just one of 26 entrances in and out of the mall. The owners say they are happy with the 45,000 people that come here every day. More than they expected. Morne Wilkin is the man who owns the mall.
We do look at the economy, but we take a long-term view on property. I think you can't just look at it short-term. Maybe you're going to have an economic downturn for a few years, but if you look at an asset class as property, you take a long-term view. Just to take Mall of Africa as an example, we bought the land from the Mia family in 2008. We only started the construction in 2013. We completed in 2016. So that's actually an 8-year period before you have a product in the ground.
Wilken defends the mall over the public transport question.
We've got a taxi holding facility. If you go on the western side of the Allendale, we've got a holding facility. You can get right from the holding facility across Bridal Bridge right into the mall. And then we went further, which is very unique as well. We've got 2 taxi drop-off areas on the sides of the mall, on the western side and the eastern side, which is quite unique in South Africa. So the people can drop off and get access to the mall. So we have catered for that, and that was something we wanted to make sure that actually works quite well.
That's all we have time for, but do tweet us at CNBC Africa using the hashtag #IOnGauteng410. From me, Fifi Peters, and the team, have a wonderful, safe, festive season.